How do leaders speak? How do they inspire, motivate, and move people with nothing more than their words? The simple truth is this: a leader speaks with conviction. A leader's words are not just sounds strung together. They're messages of power, purpose, and vision. When a leader speaks, it feels like the world stops, the room listens, and the hearts of those around them begin to beat in sync with their own. Words are tools, sharp, effective, and life-changing when used correctly. But most people don't understand the weight they carry. Too many of us talk for the sake of talking, filling the air with noise instead of speaking with intention. We ramble, we hesitate, we second-guess, and we allow fear to paralyze our message before it even leaves our mouth. If you want to talk like a leader, you must first learn how to believe in what you're saying. A leader speaks with a clarity that cuts through confusion. They don't mumble, they don't stutter, and they don't leave their message up to interpretation. They speak with precision. When a leader stands up to speak, you know exactly what they mean. Their words don't waver. They don't get lost in fluff or filler. They speak with power because they've put in the work to understand what they want to say. You see, before a leader opens their mouth, they've already done the inner work. They've already sorted out their beliefs, their purpose, their vision. They know what they stand for, and they know what they're fighting for. And when they speak, they do so with such confidence, such clarity, that everyone around them is drawn in, compelled by the energy they're projecting. When you speak like a leader, you don't beg for attention. It comes to you naturally, because the words you say carry weight, meaning, and intention. But that confidence doesn't come from an absence of fear. It comes from preparation. It comes from knowing your truth so deeply that even the doubts, the insecurities, and the fears can't touch you. A leader speaks from a place of deep belief, not only in themselves, but in the cause they're committed to. They know that their message is bigger than them. They know that the words they speak have the potential to change lives, shift perspectives, and alter the course of history. So the first step to speaking like a leader is belief. You must believe in your message. You must believe in what you're saying. If you don't, people will feel it. People can sense hesitation. People can sense when you're not sure about what you're saying, and they will start to question it. But when you speak with belief, people are drawn to it like a magnet. They may not even fully understand why, but they know there's something different about the way you speak. But belief alone isn't enough. A leader speaks with vision. Vision is the art of seeing things before they exist. It's seeing the potential, the future, and the possibilities long before anyone else can. It's knowing where you're going, even when the path is unclear. And when a leader speaks, they do so with that vision at the forefront of their mind. They don't just talk about the present, they talk about the future, the world as it could be, the person you could become, the opportunities waiting for you. And that vision inspires others to see the world the way they do. But vision isn't something that happens overnight. It's cultivated through experience, through learning, through exposure to different perspectives and ideas. A leader doesn't simply speak about their vision because it sounds good. They speak about it because they've lived it. They've seen the possibilities, and they want to bring others along with them. They speak about the future with a sense of certainty, not because they have all the answers, but because they've made the commitment to figure it out. When a leader speaks, they also speak with purpose. Purpose is the driving force behind everything a leader does. It's the reason they wake up in the morning. It's the fire that fuels their every action. Without purpose, words are hollow. They're just empty sentences strung together with no meaning, no impact. But when you speak with purpose, everything changes. Your words become a rallying cry. They become a call to action. They become the spark that ignites the fire in others. A leader's purpose is clear, undeniable, and powerful. They don't apologize for their purpose. They don't hesitate or question whether it's valid. They know their purpose, and they speak from it. Every word they say is a reflection of that purpose. They speak with a sense of urgency, because they know that time is limited. They know that every moment counts, and they don't take any opportunity to speak lightly. But purpose alone isn't enough. A leader must also speak with action. A leader leads by example. They don't just talk about what needs to be done. They show others how to do it. They walk the walk before they talk the talk. Words without action are just empty promises. But when you speak and act, your words gain weight. They become a blueprint for others to follow. This is where most people get stuck. They talk a big game, but they don't follow through. They speak about their dreams, but they don't take the necessary steps to make those dreams a reality. Leaders, however, don't just talk about their dreams, they live them. They show others that it's possible to take action, to make progress, to push through the obstacles. When you speak like a leader, you don't just inspire people with your words, you inspire them with your actions. You show them what's possible when you combine belief, vision, purpose, and action. Resilience is another trait of a true leader. Resilience is the ability to keep going when everything inside you is telling you to quit. It's the strength to push through the tough times, the setbacks, the disappointments. A leader knows that the road to success is not easy. It's filled with obstacles, challenges, and failures. But a leader doesn't let those things define them. They push through. They speak about their resilience, not because they want sympathy, but because they want others to see that anything is possible when you refuse to give up. When a leader speaks about resilience, they don't make excuses. They don't blame others or circumstances. They take full responsibility for their journey. They speak with a quiet strength that says, I may be down, but I'm not out. I'm going to keep going. And when others hear that message, they feel it. They understand that no matter what they face, they have the power to keep moving forward. And then there's gratitude. Gratitude is the foundation of a leader's mindset. A leader doesn't take anything for granted. They understand that every success, every opportunity, every victory is the result of hard work, sacrifice, and the support of others. A leader speaks with gratitude, not because they're trying to win favor, but because they truly understand the value of what they've been given. They speak about their journey, their struggles, and their triumphs with a deep sense of appreciation for the lessons they've learned along the way. Gratitude shifts the energy. It makes you humble, grounded, and connected to the bigger picture. It opens you up to new possibilities and helps you maintain perspective when things get tough. A leader who speaks with gratitude inspires others to do the same. They teach others to appreciate the journey, not just the destination. They remind people that success isn't just about what you achieve, it's about what you become in the process. Now, adaptability is also a key element of leadership. The world is constantly changing. The people around you are changing. Your circumstances are changing, and if you want to continue leading, you must be able to adapt. A leader speaks with the understanding that things will not always go according to plan. There will be setbacks, there will be failures, there will be challenges, but a true leader doesn't get stuck. They adapt, they pivot, they adjust their approach, and keep moving forward. Adaptability means staying flexible in the face of adversity. It means being willing to change course when necessary. It means being open to new ideas and new ways of thinking. When a leader speaks about adaptability, they speak with confidence, knowing that no matter what happens, they can handle it. They speak with the belief that every challenge is an opportunity to learn, grow, and improve. A leader also knows the importance of learning. Learning is not a one-time event, it's a lifelong process. A true leader is always growing, always evolving, always seeking to improve. They speak with the understanding that knowledge is power, but wisdom comes from applying that knowledge. When a leader speaks about learning, they speak with humility, knowing that there's always more to learn, always more to discover. They encourage others to take ownership of their own learning journey, to never stop growing, and to always be curious about the world around them. And finally, a leader speaks with empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It's the ability to connect with people on a deep, emotional level. A true leader knows that leadership is not just about giving orders or telling people what to do. It's about understanding where people are coming from, connecting with them, and helping them overcome their challenges. When a leader speaks with empathy, they make people feel heard. They make people feel valued. They create a sense of trust and safety that allows people to open up and be their true selves. A leader who speaks with empathy inspires others to lead with kindness, understanding, and compassion. When you speak like a leader, you don't just talk to people, you talk with them, you inspire them. You challenge them, you push them to be better, to think bigger, to act with purpose. You speak with conviction, clarity, and power. You speak from a place of belief, vision, and purpose. You lead by example, and you show others the way. So ask yourself, how are you speaking? What message are you sending to the world with your words? Are you speaking with power, with purpose, with vision? If not, it's time to start. It's time to step into your power and speak like the leader you were always meant to be. Because the world is waiting for you to lead. It's waiting for your words to inspire, to move, to change everything. And it all starts with what you say. And it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Your tone, your pace, your presence, they all speak before your words even land. When you talk like a leader, your voice carries energy, not noise. Energy. There's a calm force behind your words. You don't rush. You don't ramble. You don't speak just to fill the silence. You speak because there's something in you that demands to be shared. Something real, something strong, something needed. People can feel that. They can feel when your words come from truth. They can sense when your voice carries the weight of experience. You're not just repeating what you've heard from others. You've lived it. You've struggled. You've gotten back up. You've figured out what matters. And now you're ready to give people something they can actually hold on to. Talking like a leader means knowing when to speak and when to stay quiet. Silence is powerful when it's earned. A leader doesn't need to dominate every moment. They know that sometimes saying less has more impact. Sometimes the pause between words says more than the sentence itself. That's presence. That's control. That's leadership. People follow voices that make them feel something. And that's why leaders speak to the heart before the head. They don't just throw out facts and logic. They speak to the emotions. They speak to the soul. They talk in a way that makes people remember how it felt, not just what was said. They speak with warmth, with depth, and with complete presence. And when they speak, people feel seen, heard, understood. That connection, it's everything. It's the difference between someone who commands attention and someone who earns it. Leaders earn it because they've built themselves from the ground up. They've had to get real with themselves. They've looked in the mirror and faced the parts of themselves they didn't like. And instead of hiding those parts, they've used them. They've grown from them. They've owned every scar, every failure, every misstep. That ownership gives their voice strength, a strength that doesn't need to shout to be heard. If you want to talk like a leader, you have to start by talking to yourself like one. What are the conversations you're having in private? Are you tearing yourself down with every thought? Or are you building yourself with the same energy you want to offer the world? Because the truth is, the way you speak to yourself will shape the way you speak to others. If your inner voice is weak, scattered, or negative, it will leak out into your words. No matter how hard you try to fake confidence, you can't lead with a broken voice. You have to fix it at the root. And the root is inside you. It's your mindset. It's your beliefs. It's the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you're here to do. A leader writes a new story, one that isn't based on fear or doubt or the past. They write it based on possibility, based on truth, based on a vision of who they're becoming, not who they used to be. So if your voice trembles, start small. Speak from the truth, not from perfection. Speak about what you know and be willing to grow. You don't need to know everything to lead. You just need to be real. Speak from a place of humility, but also strength. Stand up for what matters to you and say it in a way that others can feel. Speak so that even in a crowded room, your message cuts through the noise and lands exactly where it needs to. And remember, people won't always remember what you said word for word, but they will remember how you made them feel. That's the key. That's the power. That's how you talk like a leader. You move people. You speak life into them. You give them something they didn't even know they needed until they heard your voice. Every time you speak, you have a chance to lead, to shape thoughts, to guide energy, to lift someone out of confusion, out of doubt, out of fear. Don't waste that chance. Speak with care. Speak with truth. Speak with full ownership of who you are. And watch what happens when the people around you start to stand taller, walk stronger, and believe deeper. Not just because of what you said, but because of how you said it. Leadership is not about volume. It's about value. And the value of your voice grows every time you decide to speak with intention instead of ego. When you stop trying to impress and start trying to impact, that's when your voice rises. That's when people begin to look at you differently. Not as someone trying to be important, but as someone who already is. And if you're not there yet, good. It means you have room to grow. It means you're hungry. And that hunger is fuel. Use it. Don't be discouraged by where you are. Be excited about where you're headed. Every great leader started as a beginner. Awkward, uncertain, unsure. But they didn't stay there. They kept speaking. They kept showing up. They kept shaping their voice until it matched their truth. And you can do the same. You can learn to speak with confidence, with depth, with fire. But you have to commit. You have to practice. You have to fail and keep going. That's how you build a voice that people listen to. That's how you become someone whose words make people stop and say there's something different about them. And there will be. Because you're not just speaking. You're leading. You're living the message. You're embodying what you say. And that's what makes all the difference. And here's something else. Most people overlook. Leadership in your voice doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from asking the right questions. It comes from listening more than you speak. Because before a true leader speaks, they seek to understand. They pay attention. They notice. They care. And that shows up in the way they talk. Not with arrogance, but with awareness. When you talk like a leader, you don't just throw your opinion into the air and hope it lands somewhere. You speak with purpose. You speak with clarity. You know who you're talking to. And more importantly, you care about who you're talking to. There's a sense of responsibility in your words. You're not careless. You're careful. Not timid, but thoughtful. Because you know words can build or they can break. A leader uses them to build. And when conflict comes, because it always does, a leader doesn't panic. They don't attack. They don't retreat into silence. They lean in. They speak with calm strength. They ask questions. They hold the space. And they don't speak to win. They speak to understand, to guide, to realign. That takes maturity. That takes emotional discipline. And that's why people listen. Because a leader's voice makes them feel safe, even in uncertainty. But don't mistake calm for weakness. A leader's voice may be calm, but it is never soft. It is never afraid to speak truth, even when truth is uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Because real leadership means standing up in the moments when others stay quiet. Not with rage, not with noise, but with unshakable conviction. That kind of voice moves people. It wakes them up. It calls them forward. And here's where most people fall short. They wait to be given permission to speak like a leader. They think they need a title, or a position, or a platform. But the truth is, leadership starts long before anyone gives you recognition. It starts the moment you decide your voice will no longer be used for weakness, gossip, or fear, but for strength, truth, and direction. You don't need approval to lead. You need clarity. Clarity about who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in. And once that clarity is there, your voice begins to shift. It stops being reactive. It becomes proactive, strategic, grounded. You stop talking just to talk, and you start talking because there's something that must be said. That's where impact begins. That's where trust is born. Because when your words match your actions, people listen. They feel your alignment. They sense that your voice isn't a mask. It's a reflection of your values. You're not trying to manipulate. You're not trying to impress. You're just telling the truth. And in a world full of noise, that's rare. That's powerful. So if you want to talk like a leader, start paying attention to your words. Are you using them to lift or to tear down? Are you speaking from ego or from wisdom? Are your words bringing clarity or confusion? Are you repeating what others say, or are you thinking deeply before you speak? Great leaders speak less often, but when they do, their words land with force. Not because they shout, but because they speak with history behind every sentence. You can hear the miles they've walked, the lessons they've learned, the failures they've faced, the pain they've overcome. All of it is there, quietly echoing beneath their words. That's what gives their voice power. Not performance, not volume, but truth, experience, presence. You can't fake that. You have to earn it. And you earn it by living with integrity, by sharpening your mind, by disciplining your emotions, and by refusing to waste words on anything that doesn't matter. People will challenge you, they'll question you, they'll doubt you. But if your voice comes from a place of truth, you won't waver, you won't shrink, because you're not talking to impress them. You're talking to reach them, to teach them, to help them see something they couldn't see before. And when they feel that, everything changes. You'll walk into rooms differently. You'll be heard even in silence. Not because you force people to listen, but because they choose to. They choose to because your voice brings something valuable: direction, strength, calm, vision. You become the one people look to when things fall apart. Not because you shout the loudest, but because your voice cuts through the chaos. And if you've never felt that kind of power before, you can. But you have to stop waiting. You have to decide right now that your voice matters, that it's time to step into your strength, that it's time to stop echoing the world and start leading it. Every word you speak is either building your leadership or weakening it. Every conversation you have is either training your voice or diluting it. Choose your words, own your message. And when you speak, speak like it means something, because it does. Talking like a leader is not about style, it's about substance. And substance is something you build every single day, in private, in silence, when nobody's watching. It's in those moments that your voice is being shaped. So speak with honesty, speak with purpose, speak like someone who's going somewhere. Because once you do, others will start following. Not because they have to, but because they want to. And here's the part nobody tells you. People don't follow perfect voices. They follow real ones. They follow voices that come from pain, growth, clarity, and responsibility. If you've been through failure, if you've been broken, if you've questioned your worth and climbed your way back to belief, your voice holds more power than you think, because it doesn't speak from theory. It speaks from fire, and that fire becomes light for others. When you talk like a leader, people don't just hear your words, they feel your conviction. They see your discipline. They sense that what you're saying has been earned, not borrowed, and that's why they listen. That's why they come back. Because your voice makes them feel like they can become more. It gives them permission to grow, to evolve, to change. But don't confuse leadership with performance. You don't need to talk a certain way to be taken seriously. You just need to talk from a place of truth, over and over again, until your voice becomes a reflection of everything you've fought for. Until it becomes impossible to separate who you are from how you speak. And make no mistake, that takes time, that takes effort, that takes self-awareness. You'll say the wrong things. You'll get nervous. You'll question yourself. You'll wonder if people are even listening. But you keep going. You keep refining your voice. You keep paying attention to how your words land. And over time, something changes. You begin to trust yourself. Your voice begins to settle. It stops shaking. It sharpens. You stop needing to be right, and you start needing to be real. That's where true leadership lives. Not in rehearsed lines, but in raw honesty. You don't need big words. You need clear ones. You don't need to sound impressive. You need to sound present, because when you're fully present, your voice carries presence. That's when it cuts through distraction. That's when people stop scrolling, stop thinking, stop drifting, and they start listening, because they recognize something rare. A voice that has purpose behind every sentence. Talking like a leader also means you take full responsibility for your words. You own them. You don't blame. You don't deflect. You don't use your voice as a weapon. You use it as a tool to build, to heal, to align. And that requires strength. It requires you to rise above your emotions and lead from your principles. Not every moment will be easy. Some moments will test your patience. Some moments will demand restraint. Others will demand courage. And both require strength to know when to speak up and when to step back, when to call people higher and when to simply hold space. That's the art of leadership. That's the balance. And you learn it by showing up again and again, not for approval, but for alignment. Because at the end of the day, your voice will either reflect who you think you're supposed to be, or it will reflect who you really are. That's the choice. That's the turning point. And if you choose truth, not comfort, not image, not performance, but truth, your voice will find its way. It will rise. It will strengthen. It will stretch beyond your limits. And eventually it will move others, not by accident, but by design. Because when you've built your voice from the ground up, from discipline, from awareness, from pain, from wisdom, it becomes something people trust, something they lean on, something they come back to when life shakes their confidence. That's what talking like a leader really means. It means you speak to guide, not to dominate. It means you speak with clarity, not confusion. It means you speak from conviction, not from fear. And if you keep living in that direction, if you keep building that voice, refining it, deepening it, one day you'll look around and realize something has changed. People will be quoting your words, repeating your phrases, shifting their behavior because of something you said. Not because you were trying to be a leader, but because you chose to live and speak like one, every day. And one day you'll realize your voice has become a mirror of your discipline, your integrity, your commitment, your values. You won't need to explain yourself anymore, because the way you speak will already tell the story. People will hear it in your tone, in your presence, in your restraint, in your certainty. And here's something powerful. The more you grow, the less you'll need to say. You'll begin to choose your words with care, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You won't rush to speak just to fill silence. You'll respect silence. You'll let it work for you. That's what leaders do. They understand that sometimes the pause is more powerful than the statement. That silence creates space for meaning, for attention, for impact. Your voice will begin to carry more than just ideas. It will carry energy, that steady, focused energy that people crave, that certainty in a world that's full of noise, that clarity in a time when most are lost in distraction. And all of that comes from within, from the work you've done when no one was listening, from the reflection, the self-correction, the quiet decisions to speak from strength instead of insecurity. Most people talk to be heard. Leaders talk to serve. There's a big difference. One is rooted in ego. The other is rooted in purpose, and you can feel the difference. One is loud, chaotic, emotional. The other is firm, clear, grounded. When a leader speaks, they're not performing. They're directing, they're guiding, they're inviting others into something higher. But to reach that point, you have to train your voice, just like a muscle, just like your mindset. You can't let it drift aimlessly. You've got to shape it. You've got to study it. Pay attention to how you sound. Record yourself. Listen, improve. Are you rambling? Are you using filler words because you're unsure? Are you speaking with confidence or with doubt? This kind of awareness changes everything. Because once you start training your voice, you start training your influence. And that influence doesn't come from charisma alone. It comes from consistency. If people hear you say one thing and watch you do the opposite, your words lose weight. But when your voice lines up with your actions, people listen without hesitation, because they trust it, because they've seen it, because you're not just someone who talks, you're someone who leads. It's easy to get caught up in trying to sound powerful. But sounding powerful means nothing if your message is hollow, if your life doesn't back it up. That's why the best leaders don't chase influence. They become worthy of it. They live in alignment so that their words naturally carry weight. And here's the truth. You don't need to raise your voice to raise your influence. You just need to raise your standards. You need to raise your clarity, your patience, your focus. Speak from those places, and people will start to notice. They'll lean in, they'll listen longer, they'll feel something shift. Because real leadership isn't loud. It's felt, it's earned, and it's steady. Don't chase attention. Build authority. Real authority comes from the way you move through the world, the way you treat people, the way you hold yourself accountable. And when that authority is there, your voice changes. You don't need to prove anything anymore. You just need to speak with intention. You don't need to dominate conversations. You don't need to interrupt. You don't need to rehearse, because your voice won't come from trying to be someone you're not. It will come from fully owning who you are. That's when people begin to trust you. That's when you stop talking from the outside in and start speaking from the inside out.